One's good. Okay.
Okay, rock and roll. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Sunday podcast. Here with us today, and I've actually been waiting all week for this. I have Devin Sherrington of 360 Fit, who accidentally stumbled over my Facebook page or me over his. I don't know exactly, but I got this instant message. I think you were reaching out to find out about my fitness goals.
Yes, sir.
So it was a hard sell to my producer and partner because he was saying, what has this got to do with real estate? Thanks, Mike. But actually, it has everything to do with real estate. I don't think that I could be as effective a realtor as I am without a fitness and motivation mindset. And Devin, immediately when I met you, I could see that you were all about motivation and fitness. And so I really needed to get you on this podcast. So Devin, to kick off, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Why did you choose Halifax?
So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I moved. My dad is ex-military. I have an older brother at the time that didn't like the way the U.S. was going, so they moved. This is in the 70s.
They didn't like the U.S. then?
The U.S. then, not the U.S. now. So I was very, very little, and so we moved to Cape Breton, and a little rural area of Cape Breton that most people don't know where it is. It's called Judic. And so it's about half an hour from the causeway. I grew up on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere on a farm.
And I think when I popped in to visit you, I think you told me that it was like 40 acres or
it's
something.
It's 450 acres.
450 acres.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is huge.
When you're on the farm, if you look in any direction you look, my parents own.
That is amazing. And it's very different to, I would imagine, the city life that you grew up in that rural environment and then you moved to something more cosmopolitan. How did you find the adjustment coming to Halifax?
I found it loud.
Right.
I went to St. FX. I have 2 degrees from St. FX.
Okay.
And coming out of there, again, it's a small town, right?
Yeah.
And I found the city loud.
Right.
I found it very busy and very loud. But then again, I'm kind of busy and loud anyway, so I guess it worked out okay.
I didn't say anything. And those 2 degrees, are they fitness related?
They're not at all, actually. I have an English literature degree.
Okay.
I wrote a thesis on modern American poetry.
Right.
And I have a philosophy degree.
Okay, that's amazing. And actually, that's amazing because that would kind of segue with the marketing aspect. I would imagine that would give you the skills you need to help promote yourself and kind of why 360 Fit has been such a success.
I've been able to write a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah.
I can do that somewhat. I actually work with a guy who's out in Kelowna. I hired him, would have been 2.5 years ago. And he has taught me a lot about marketing. Yeah. Mostly what he does is work with online trainers, which is what I was getting into during COVID, obviously, because you had to. But it has really segued well into what I do with the gym too. So it really serves 2 purposes.
Absolutely. And then I wanted to ask you, why fitness? Like you studied one thing and then you ended up in fitness. You're coming from Cape Breton, from a rural environment to more. What motivated you to get into fitness?
I started working out at 14. So okay. my parents had bought my brother a weight set when I was maybe 10 or 11. And he went to university. He's 5 years older than I am. And I decided I wanted to try working out. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. And I liked the fact that for me, I was a very shy kid and very, I was awkward in, public and stuff like that. So for me, it was an opportunity to feel better about myself. And if we're being honest, in my mind, I thought if I got big and strong, girls would like me. So that's where that started.
Brutal honesty there.
Yes. And it just sort of continued, and I became a trainer in university.
Right.
I've been a trainer 32 years now. And I always thought, well, this is a good part-time job. It's fun. Yeah. I love being in the gym, but I will never do this long-term. I used to say to myself, well, I can't be a trainer at 30. That's ancient. And now I'm 51. So
there you go. Age is just a number.
Yes.
I think I heard somewhere that the training and imparting your knowledge can almost be more fun than doing the actual activity itself. Is that where you...
Very much so. The time you get to spend with clients, either online and giving them and helping them, and in person is amazing. You really get to be, I always say, you get the best part of any job, because you get to be there with somebody. Even if they're cranky at you during the workout, they're only cranky because it's hard.
Right.
At the end of it, they get results, which they're excited about. You get to help people. People are always in a good mood,
Yeah.
which is nice for me because I like to be in a good mood.
That's good. And then why a gym? Why start a gym? Did you start the training before you started the gym, or did they sort of go together?
No. So I started as a trainer in university, and I worked after university. I moved to Halifax.
Right.
I actually worked part-time as a trainer because back then you really couldn't make any money. And I worked part-time as a trainer, and I was a bartender. I worked in a couple different jobs. Over time, I spent more and more time with gyms, and about, it would be 20, my son's 23, so it'd been about 22 years ago. I got offered to manage a gym. It was in Lakeside. So I took that on. I liked it. Not all of it, but I did like I liked the management side of it a little bit. When I left there, I was recruited actually by New Bodies, which is, if you're old enough to remember New Bodies, it got sold to Good Life a long time ago. I got recruited from them, and I stayed there for several years. And I just got tired of, I'm not a good employee. That's the best way to put it. I'm just not a good employee because I just want to go do my job. I'm happy. I used to say to them all the time, like, look, you don't need to worry about me. I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to keep your clients. You will go make money. You don't need to worry about me. But they like to micromanage. And I know
they give you targets and things.
And I was like, you don't have to. I'll do those things. But they didn't like that stuff. So I decided to go out on my own. I worked on my own for a while.
Okay.
Probably 4 or 5 years. And then I decided over time, I was like, you know what? I want to have my own space. And I actually met a client. Her name is ironically Angel. And she had quite a lot of money.
Angel investor.
Angel investor, yes. And that's the reason I could start.
That's brilliant. Is she still a partner with you?
No, she's in Vancouver.
Okay.
So she's originally from here. She lives in Vancouver. I still talk to her all the time.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful person, but she changed my life completely.
That is amazing. That's a lovely success story. One of the things with running your own business, and it sounds like through those other jobs you did, you got a lot of sort of managerial experience, and you would have picked that up, and now it's coming into play when you're managing your own gym. How do you, because you're very much a hands-on kind of guy, how do you get the ideal balance between managing the company and continuing to do what you love, which is the training and the fitness?
That has been a challenge. I'll be honest. I am better at it than I used to be. For quite a while, I used to say I'm a good grinder.
Right.
I will work really hard, but it took me hiring the right staff.
Yeah.
I've got some fantastic staff now. On a lot of fits and starts to get that right. But getting the right staff that understood my expectations and my strengths and weaknesses, and then being able to play to that. I've got our head trainer, Matt, is fantastic, and he can handle sort of the nuts and bolts stuff more and let me kind of freewheel a little bit more on my own.
Right. You found the sweet spot for that.
Yes.
I love what you told me when I visited you earlier this week, where you said you split out the finance person.
Yes.
So that you didn't want to be seen as the finance guy. You want to be the trainer.
Yep.
You don't want to be seen as the finance guy to do with the fees and all that.
What I do is actually I just make sure that our trainers never have to talk about money to the clients.
Yes.
Unless they absolutely want to. We don't do that. So either Matt, who is our head trainer, or me or Min does that stuff. Because to me, I look at it in this manner. The relationship you have with a client is important, but money can make things weird.
Yeah.
And rather than have them, because what every other business does is the trainer sells to the person.
They do.
That's two different hats, and I don't think what makes a good trainer necessarily makes a good salesperson.
Yeah.
So I would rather a really good trainer who knows what they're doing and let the rest of us do the selling. And then that way the client looks at it and says, okay, this is my trainer. I'm going to get the best experience here. And if I need to talk about money, well, I can talk to Devin or Matt or whatever.
Absolutely. And during training, to your point, you should be focused on the training and not anything else.
Exactly.
To hold you back. When we were chatting earlier, you mentioned you had 3 different gyms at one point, and then COVID happened and you met a few challenges. How do you stay motivated after the setbacks that you had during COVID?
Well, I'm not good at anything else. So I had no other options.
Do or die.
Yeah, it was pretty much that. I got divorced a long time ago. The first divorce, I should make that clear. And when I got divorced, I got very careful with money. So even going into COVID, I was pretty confident that even with shutdowns, I could make something work. Like I didn't think, okay, we're going to close. I did have 3 gyms and 26 staff at the time, which was unwieldy and a lot. Okay. And I really didn't have the time nor the skill set to do it. So COVID kind of came along at a time. I remember driving home in January. This is pre-COVID, so 2.5 months before COVID. Yeah. And the business was making more money than it had ever made, and my stress level was like through the roof.
Right.
And I thought, this is not sustainable. I don't like this. And so COVID in some ways was a positive for me because I did get to say, okay, I am not going to continue this. I'm going to stick with one thing and get good at that. And it has been much easier now.
Do you feel like you found your happy place now, your equilibrium between the training and making enough money?
Yes. A big piece of it for me that was good was when I started doing online training, it allowed me to touch more people in different places. So I have clients right from Seattle to Dubai now.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And it is on that side of things, you can make more money and influence more people that way. So it has allowed me to, instead of being in front of clients 10 to 12 hours a day, I can be with clients 3 or 4 hours a day, work on things with online, help other people other places.
And I love that. I love that COVID actually, initially it was a setback, but you turned it into something where it was a benefit. And so the online component, as a lot of businesses were forced to adapt during that time. Just a question on that. How do you do training over the internet?
So basically what we do is we use 2 different apps. We use MyFitnessPal, which is a food tracking app. That's an important one because it helps keep people on track. And then number 2, we use an app called Trainerize. And what Trainerize does is I can build programming right in there for you. And when I build programming in there, there's video attached to every exercise. So you're never like going, oh my God, what is this? I built an entire program for people. We build out food plans for people. My sister, actually, Sarah, is in Ottawa. She works with me full time. Yep. She's our head trainer online. So she handles all the food side of things to help people with that. She's like a virtuoso with food and a little bit more exciting.
So it's a little bit of a family business.
Yes, it is, which is pretty cool now that she works for me.
Yeah. And then one of the big things, and I need to bring this back to real estate a little bit. How do you motivate yourself to get up each day? Because running your own business is difficult. You don't have somebody saying you need to be there a certain time. These are the goals you need to meet. So you have to create your own goals, and you need to motivate yourself to move it. Very much like a real estate agent.
Yes,
like
sir.
we have to wake up every day. If we don't do the do and we don't phone the clients, if we're not public facing, we're not going to do any business.
Right.
It's just the same with you.
Yes, sir.
So how do you, what advice could you give us as real estate agents to stay motivated and show up every day?
It's not about motivation at all. It is about dedication and habits. I get up every morning and I get up about 5 to 5:30 in the morning. I do an hour of work and that's all my outreach. So how I met you was you had liked a client's transformation post. So a lot of our clients, we encourage them to post about it because it helps to keep them honest. It also helps me because what I'll do is if you know somebody, you post a picture, your friend Jeff likes the picture, I reach out to Jeff and say, hey Jeff, I really appreciate you liking Phil's post. That's awesome. Is there what stood out about it for you? Now, if you come back and say, well, shoot, I'm trying to get fit, then I can start a conversation with you and see if you're a good fit for me. So I do that every day. I send out about 150 messages out of 4 different platforms. Okay. Every day. And that's 7 days a week. As soon as I get out of bed, that's what I do. And I don't have a choice on that. That's just something you do. But that's what I mean about habits. Yeah. You pick the things you have to do. I always say this. I have to make money because people have to eat. I've got 2 kids. I have to eat. I have staff that have to eat. So I have to do my part. Yes, that means a fair amount of work, but that's okay. You just have to build habits into your life and say, okay, if I have to do outreach, if I have to do posting, if I have to do whatever, I do that at these times. You build it into your day, and that's a non-negotiable. I do the same thing with clients and workouts. Yeah. I look at workouts like you have a doctor's appointment. when you have a doctor's appointment, you don't blow it off because nowadays you may not have a doctor at the other end of it. So I always say that we go into that and say your workouts, build them into your day, because that's part of A, it's going to allow you to live longer, which means you make more money. And everybody wants to live longer. And B, it's going to make you feel better, which means you're going to have better relationships outside of the gym and outside of work. So that's the kind of things. I am big on habits. Pick your habits, stick with your habits, and you'll do the things that need to be done.
So you say habits over motivation.
Yeah, motivation comes and goes. There are days, Phil, I get out of bed and I'm like, oh, I am so tired today. I don't want to do this. But that doesn't matter. I get up and I do it anyway. Because it's part of life. And if you build that habit and that's your schedule, you will stick to that schedule. You just don't want to make a schedule something stupid.
Yeah.
If you say, okay, I'm going to get up at 5 in the morning and you're somebody that gets up at 8, well, that's not going to work. I happen to be somebody who gets up at 5. But if you get up at 8 and do that work or plan it in some other part of your day, it's just about fitting it into your day. This is what I have to do. If I need an hour for this, figure out where you're putting it.
Yeah.
It's the same as fitness. If you say you only have half an hour, you can do a lot in half an hour. You don't have to overthink the whole thing and be like, oh, I must have this amount of time on this specific time. It doesn't matter when you do it. It's just doing it.
And there's that thing about when is the right time to work out. It's never going to be perfect. You should just...
Every time. And whatever fits for you is the right time to work out. It's the same thing about doing work for business. Figure out what your schedule looks like. Not everybody wants to get up at 5 a.m. I like it. I'm okay with that. If your schedule is that, you do all your outreach work or you would do your posting or whatever in the evening, that's okay. Lots of people are online in the evening. I just happen to pick in the morning because I get up early.
Morning's great. And I used to be a morning person. And I just find that most realtors want to be signing contracts and doing deals a little bit later. Right. So sometimes we're pushing, we've had paperwork signed 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, right.
So I've been forced to kind of fall in line with what the general trend is. So I do find generally I'll go to bed about midnight, round about there, and then be up at about 6:30 or 7.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people talking about that 5 a.m. club. And
I have been in that 5 a.m. club since I was in university. I started that. Oh gosh, I think when I became a trainer in university, I liked it. I like being up early. What I do is I get up, I do about an hour of work. I go and there's in my building, there's a gym there. I go and I either get on the bike or the elliptical or the treadmill, and then I answer texts for the next half hour and it's not fast cardio.
You do that while you're on the bike, the text?
No, the first hour I do on my own.
Right.
I'm just sitting there. And then I get on because I don't want to be doing an hour cardio. I don't need that. And then that is my outreach. It's posting. It's things like that. I set all that stuff up. Then I go down to the gym. I spend half an hour walking on an incline or whatever, and I'll respond to all the texts that have come in from the night before, the messages, whatever. All that's out of the way. So by 7 in the morning, I have sent 150 cold DMs. Yeah. I've also responded to everybody else. There's responses coming back. Now I can continue with the rest of the day, go get a shower, have breakfast.
That's some very good advice. I don't think I'm doing anywhere close to 150 a day.
You just build to it. When I first started, I'll be honest, I had a hard time sending any because I felt weird about it. And sometimes people are going to cuss you out. People will call me names and sometimes they'll say some nasty stuff. But I always look at it this way. That's not my client. It's okay. Not everybody's going to be somebody that fits with me. And that's what I'm trying to do is figure out if you're going to be a good fit. Yeah. And I always end a conversation this way. I'm like, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And I said, smile emoji. The funny thing is down the road, sometimes people come back.
They come back after making the snarky comment.
Sometimes I had a guy curse me out.
Right.
It was a long rant. And about 5-6 months later, he added me as a friend. Yeah. I don't know if he even remembered he'd sent it. I remembered because I saw it in the conversation. Yeah. Then he wrote me, he comes to the gym. Okay. Which is hilarious to me. I think it's funny, but you know what? Yeah. He ended up being a really good guy. So obviously I just caught him on a bad day.
Well, that's really good advice. It shows that it's never futile to reach out.
No, you never know what you're going to get. And the reason reaching out to people is so important is because lots of people are, for the lack of a better term, lurking online. They don't necessarily like stuff or comment on it or engage, but they're interested in it. I've had clients who have come to us and said, I've followed you for 6, 7, 8 years. And I watched you, and I remember you did this with this person. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a long time ago. They had never interacted. So those are people, even when I'm sending those cold DMs, they're not people that necessarily even interacted with me.
Yeah, but
so I
you're
wouldn't
on their
even
radar.
know. But they're there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the important thing. Like the biggest thing you can do is just do the work, send out messages, because you don't know who is, in your case, somebody might be sitting there saying, I really want to sell my house. And then they get a message that day.
Well, we do. By reaching out, you're going to get them while they're thinking about it, which
Yes.
is the best time to do it.
Oh, 100%.
On the other side, we've got, I'll give you an example. There was a client, we have a system where we can send out automated emails of listings. So as the listings come up within the client's price range, it automatically gets sent to the client, and it's got our details and all of that there. So they don't always respond, and sometimes they unsubscribe or whatever, but they like to get the emails. Everybody loves property.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. So after about 3 years, this client reached out. I thought they'd fallen off the face of the earth. They said, we're ready to buy. And within a month, we had them in a house.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You just never know.
You just
and
never
that's
know.
why you do that stuff. It's that you just, I always look at it this way. I always think front of mind. I want anybody that thinks about fitness to go, that guy, the bald guy, that's the one I want to go to, because he gets results, which is why I'm so big on pushing results, because most of my competitors will talk about community, and they're doing events with clients, and they post transformation pictures once in a while. We don't care about any of that. We have community because people get results, and that when you come to the gym, we know your name, we're excited to see you.
Yeah.
But no, we're not going to have wine and cheese events, and we're not getting drunk and going to parties together, because that's not what I do. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. So I aimed it, I'm like, look, I'm pretty utilitarian. What I do is get you results. You can go to other places if you want to get some things. I'm going to get you the result you want.
And what I really loved about when I came to your gym, there were no obstacles or barriers when I came in. There were no turnstiles.
No.
I came in the door, there was a big hearty wave from you and the person who was with you, and you immediately feel welcome when you come in, and it makes you want to find out more.
Oh, that's good. I grew up in a small town, so you can't get away with being a knucklehead in a small town because everybody knows you. If I did anything as a kid that was stupid, someone would call my parents and they would be not happy, and they wouldn't say, well, they wouldn't even let me explain it. They'd be like, you were wrong, so-and-so called, and don't do that ever again, and now you're in trouble. So I've always looked at it like I look at that small town community, right? Because I grew up, my high school graduating class was 23 people. Like there's a small area, right?
Yeah.
And that's over a large area to come to one school. And there's not a lot of people. So I tried to look at the gym as being similar. I want people to say hello. I want people to know, because I've worked in big box gyms. You walk in the door and the only person you know is your trainer.
Yeah.
And that's not a comfortable feeling.
And the funny thing is, when you come into a bigger city, that's exactly the kind of thing people crave. They want they want to relate to you on a personal level, on a more human level. And it brings me to those Costco videos. I see about sometimes 2 of those a day, where you're in Costco, you're reviewing some product. The one I loved most was the rye bread, where you kind of open up with, I'm not supposed to be eating this, but I love it so much.
Oh, I love rye bread.
And then you talk about the calories and why you shouldn't be having it, but you're going to have it.
Yeah. I love rye bread, but it's funny. The reason I started doing that, I had a client and he asked me about something. And I think it was at Sobeys at the time, and I went in and I picked it up and I did a video for him and sent it to him, and he thought it was hilarious. And he's like, dude, that's really funny. You should post that. And I thought, all right, okay, I can post that. And I did. And all these people were like, oh, that's really neat. And I thought, well, that's weird. Who would have thought that anyone would be interested in a 30-second clip on food?
Yeah.
But the thing I always say to my staff is this: we're not our clients. In the same way for you, you understand real estate. Your client, I have no freaking idea. Like, I live in a house. It's like, right. I don't have any idea. My clients don't understand food. So they look at a label and they're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to read on this. Yeah. And the food companies know that, and they build that way. So I sort of started doing it. I was at Costco today. I made 5 of them. Well, sometimes people give me some weird looks when I'm doing it, but
I was going to ask you, they're going to see you standing there holding the thing with your phone on your
I'm literally like this. I'm like, hey, Coach Devin here, so I'm having this.
Generally, I can't even read those labels. They make the text so small.
They make
so
the
maybe
text
people
small.
Don't bother reading them.
They put all kinds kinds of stuff on it,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is high protein when it's not.
Yeah.
They do everything with it. I mean, it's creative advertising, right? I mean, there's a reason those aisles in Costco are sideways. It's because that way it keeps you in them longer.
Yeah.
Because if they were vertical, you would be coming out every single time at the cash register, and that's a good time to exit.
I didn't know that.
And they turn a lot of those sideways.
yeah. So they kind of keep you in it.
Yeah. The idea is to keep you in. If you see some big stores in the U.S., for example, they'll take them and they'll turn the first few sideways.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are vertical, and that really keeps you in there. It's like a maze. And the longer that you're there, it's like when you get to the front of Walmart,
Yeah.
and there's all this extra stuff you could buy.
Right.
And they're just trying to catch you. They only need you to buy a couple things, right? Because they sell so much.
Yeah, they usually get you with the chocolates and the sweets. they make you run that tunnel.
Yes,
before
you got
get
to run the gauntlet through there.
Yeah. So for realtors and fitness, I mean, I can say that fitness is important to me. I have it in my calendar, an absolute minimum twice a week, but I try to do about 4 to 5 times a week.
That's awesome.
When the weather's great, it'll be, even if I can just squeeze in a run. I do prefer the cardio, although I do hit the weights sometime. I'd love to come join you for a workout sometime.
Yes, for sure.
Could be to my detriment, but
You might be a little sore
I'd love
afterwards.
to see. But for realtors in general, just for all of us as realtors, what would you recommend as the minimum amount of exercise or cardio in order to have a healthy lifestyle and keep a good focus on work?
3 days of weightlifting.
3 days of
have
weightlifting.
3 days of weightlifting at a minimum. And the reason, and we'll talk about cardio in a second, but the reason the weightlifting is so important is as you age, once you hit about 35, 40, your body will start to degrade muscle over time. And it's somewhere between, 0.5% and 1% a year if you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Which means by the time, in 20 years, you could have lost somewhere between 25 and 30% of your muscle mass. That impacts your lifestyle a lot. Like if now you can't carry your groceries and things like that. So that's why weightlifting is very important. Weightlifting overall, much more important than cardio insofar as if you're looking for, how you feel, the ability to move, things like that. Cardio is heart health.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is. And a lot of people like cardio because it's easy to do, right?
Should they do a mix?
100%. So you should do about 100 to 120 minutes of cardio a week.
Yeah.
Now, that cardio can be going for a walk. It doesn't have to be high stress. That's why we talk a lot about, that 10,000 step rule.
Yep.
If you get 10,000 steps in a day, you'll see a significant difference in your body. In the summertime, spring, summer, and fall, Cindy and I, who's my girlfriend, will go for a walk through Bedford. And I will walk. I mean, it's a stroll. I'm not going fast. But I can see a difference I'll drop weight every single time because I'm getting all these extra steps. It's an hour or so. But, all we do is talk and hang out for the hour. But it's nice outside. I can do that. You don't have to go bananas on cardio.
Yeah.
You don't have to be pouring sweat or sprinting or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
In reality, steady state cardio, getting 100 to 120, minutes in a week and somewhere around 10,000 steps a day, we'll see that is enough to make sure your heart's strong. So it's two pieces, right? We want to be strong enough to do the things we want to do.
Yeah.
Carry our groceries, walk up a flight of stairs.
Maintain that muscle mass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on the other side is make sure our heart's strong so we're not having a heart attack.
And that actually sounds more doable because I think people always mistakenly think, well, I'll have to hit the gym 5 times a week.
Oh my gosh.
And really, it's not all that much, and probably not even as long. How long would you go for on one gym session?
45, 55 minutes. It doesn't need to be long.
55.
People always bite off more than they can chew.
Yeah.
They always think this thought process of, I have to be in the gym because we see it on television and stuff.
Yeah.
2 hours a day, 7 days a week. Listen, if you can get 5 days in, I would be ecstatic. That's awesome. Doesn't necessarily have to happen because not everybody just wants to get, really, really fit. That's a lot of work and it's a lot of work to maintain it. But if you just want it for longevity and to feel good and be able to do all the things you want, 3 days of weightlifting, 45 to 55 minutes, that's enough.
Okay, so for realtors, they can do 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And that'll put them in a positive mindset.
Oh my gosh.
Close more deals, be happier while doing it.
You always do better. People get a vibe from you, right?
Yeah.
They can tell how you are in your head,
Right.
whether you're trying to fake it or not.
Right.
So that's one of the things that's amazing. I had back during COVID, I got a staph infection in my spine. I got super sick, was in the hospital, almost died. And I couldn't work out for about 10 weeks afterwards. I was on a PICC line. So I was on antibiotics for 8 months. It was a long haul, but that was the longest I'd ever not worked out in my life. The difference in your mental state was a lot. And I preached that forever to people, but I'd never really been sick. I'd never really had to take time off.
Yeah.
So the difference in your mental state is something else. It gets rid of a ton of stress, and we all have stress in life now. We're getting inundated with trade wars and things at work, and a deal falls through or whatever.
Yeah.
Those things are stressful. The best way to mitigate those things is not to drink or smoke or binge watch TV. It's to do something that's going to make you feel better. And when you feel better, then you're going to do better, which means you'll close more deals because you're in a better headspace.
Totally agree with you. I feel I came down with the flu a couple of weeks back, and I missed 2 workouts. And after just missing the 2 workouts, I could feel that everything felt like too much effort.
Yeah.
I've got to complete this paperwork. It's so much work to get this done, and that's never been an issue. When you were ill for so long, was it difficult for you to get back into the pattern of fitness after that?
No, it wasn't hard to get back into it. Well, for me, I'm a little crazy. So I like to work out. So they told me you're not allowed to do anything. You could go for a walk. So I decided in my building, it was 6 floors. And I'm like, okay, I can walk up and down the stairs in the building. That was about as much as I was able to do.
It's a good workout.
And the first day I lasted, I think it was 6 minutes. And I had to stop. I made it up and down once. And then I had to sit there for about 15 minutes because I was so tired.
Yeah.
Which for me, again, a very different experience. I was like, wow, this is serious.
Yeah.
But over time, I just built that up. So once I came out of those 8 weeks, I was doing about 25 minutes of just walking. It wasn't fast.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't allowed to, because I was worried about pulling the PICC line out. I would just walk up and down, and over time it was amazing. As time went on, the more I could do, the better I felt.
Yeah.
And I would do it. I'd get up first thing in the morning and do it before the kids were up, before my ex was up. Everybody, I was just like, I'm going to get this in.
Yeah.
That way I'm going to be in a better headspace. Because, I mean, the kids were doing homeschooling. They weren't happy.
Right. Yeah.
None of that stuff was real
different
good.
times.
Yes,
right? So
exactly.
you almost got a double whammy in COVID there, having to deal with that as well as the issues surrounding the gym. And then, of course, having kids at home.
It was interesting. It was interesting. It was a very challenging time. But again, and my ex owned her own business as well. So her business was closed. My business was closed. Right. The kids were home. It was a lot. But at the same time, there were some positives that came from that. And some of the positives were, I always look at it as the resiliency side of things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? If I can bounce back from that, I can bounce back from anything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I don't think it's a test we'd ever want to repeat.
No, I'd pass on it. I'll say that. It did lead me to doing online coaching, which I absolutely love. And I thought going in, I'm very much a people person. I thought I would hate it. And it turned out I really loved it. So there's a huge positive for me in that one. I just wouldn't want to do it again.
Hard pass. So general fit, I jotted down a few general fitness questions. We're having such a nice chat about the business side and about motivation and consistency. But the nuts and bolts of it, it comes down to things like, and you could speak to this better than I, nutrition, carbs versus protein.
Yes.
Some of the basic things like weight loss could be your goal, or weight gain could be your goal.
Right.
Do you cover all of these sort of things in your fitness regimen?
Yes, sir.
In your training?
We do all that stuff. And that's there. I always say they go hand in hand. It's 50, you have to do work and you have to eat right. And food is really not rocket science. People try to, especially if they're trying to sell diet plans and crap like that. They want you to think it's way more confusing than it is. If you want to figure out how many calories you need in a day, take your body weight in pounds. For example, I'm 225.
Yeah. Multiply
it by 10. Now I have 2,250. That's the minimum number of calories I'm going to need for the day to walk around and maintain this weight and just live. Any exercise on that will create a negative, right? So that's a negative. Yeah. So if I burn 400 calories, well, now I'm down to 1,800 calories. That means either A, I'm going to lose weight. Yeah. If I just continue to eat the 2,250, or I can actually eat those extra 400 calories. So now I'm up to 2,650 calories I can have in a day.
Right.
The only other super important thing, and people talk about a lot about macros, which are fats, carbs, and protein.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of people downloading it. I love MyFitnessPal. It's a great app. You can track your food in it. Bit of a pain in the butt.
What is that one called?
MyFitnessPal.
MyFitnessPal.
It's a great app. What it does, it'll track your macros for you, because macro tracking is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
The only really important thing to remember, though, and people try to confuse things a lot, in reality, as long as your calories are where they should be. So if you want to lose weight, you are eating fewer calories than you're expending in a day, and your protein is at least 30% of your total calories at a minimum, you're fine. Because everything else has to fall in place. If the protein's 30%, the carbs can be whatever and the fat can be whatever, because it's still falling under that number of calories that you're looking for. If you're looking to lose weight, you just make sure you're on the lower side. If you're looking to gain weight, you make sure you're on the higher side. The biggest problem people have is we don't get enough protein. North American diet, we do not eat enough protein. And I have clients that come and they track their food at the beginning and they're like, I'm eating 12% or 14%. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a change.
Yeah.
And that can be hard. And the reason it's hard is because fat tastes good.
Yeah.
Carbs make you feel good. Protein just fills you up. I always say this one. My goal is always this. If you have to have protein in every freaking meal you eat.
Yeah.
And if you don't have protein in that meal, that is a wasted meal. It's basically wasted calories.
Is there anything to be said for protein supplements?
There's a lot of really good ones
like
out there.
Whey protein?
Especially as guys, it can be hard, and for women too, but a lot for guys, because we weigh more normally. You want to have, enough calories in a day. You want to have enough protein in a day. Sometimes having a protein shake is very helpful. I do it every single day. Because I just find it allows me to get more protein in without adding a whole bunch more calories in a day. So it is super important to get that in there and making sure that there's a ton of supplements out there now. The big ones that people want to use are protein and creatine. Those are the two top ones.
Yeah. So generally, I've used a little bit of the protein and creatine. My creatine's run out. I haven't been using it for the past 2 weeks. And I have noticed a bit of a change there. I was thinking I could get by with just the protein.
Creatine it is the single most studied. There's nothing, protein hasn't been studied as much as creatine has.
Right.
It is the single most studied supplement on the market. It also is probably the single best supplement on the market for you because it does a couple things. It's not just, yes, it's going to allow you to work out harder. Yes, it's going to allow you to grow more lean body muscle. It also is going to make you, it helps with depression. It helps with your cognitive ability because what is allowing is it allows more water into each, so more water is in each cell. Yep. If there's more water in each cell, most of your brain is liquid.
Right.
It allows you to think better. It does enormous numbers of things, and there's huge numbers of studies on it. So unless you're someone who has significant kidney problems, everybody should take creatine.
Right.
And 5 grams of creatine every day.
And it's pretty harmless if you take too much or whatever.
It wouldn't really hurt you too much. I mean, really a scoop of it is what I think 5 grams. That's roughly 3 to 5 grams a day is fine.
Per day. So another question which often arises, am I too old to work out? and what if I injure myself, or what if I am injured? Like, how would you?
People get injured all the time. Everybody gets injured at times. It's just one of those things. Like if you do anything, if you play a sport, if you run, you're going to pull things. Yeah. It happens. So I always say to people, don't worry about getting injured or worry about being injured. You're probably going to have it happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get in the way. You can work around any injury. I had a client and she ruptured her Achilles tendon and she didn't miss any workouts. She continued to come in with the cast on and did all upper body. And what's incredible about that story is, and I love it, I tell it all the time, she's a police officer, been a friend of mine for years. And she ruptured her Achilles tendon. She went to physio, and there was a woman at physio with exactly the same rupture. So the same rupture and the same surgery to fix it. Angie was running on her injury before the other woman was walking without a limp.
Interesting. Because
of the fact that she and her physiotherapist was like, you're moving so much. Blood flow for injury is incredibly important. That's why if you go to say you get a hip replaced, they say we want you to walk around, move. Yeah. The more you move, the better it is for you. Your body works better because it flushes blood, and that's important. On the age side of things, we've got a guy that's 74 years old that comes in the gym and he kicks people's butts who are in their 30s.
Right.
A good friend of mine, he's a CEO, his name is Bruce Bowser. Bruce is 66 years old. Yeah. He looks about 40 and he works out every single day, never misses a day.
What can you do for somebody who's never worked out before and they want to start, but it feels like too much. They don't understand the exercises. Have you got some sort of program to bring them in, show them the correct way of exercising?
Yeah, but we always look at it this way, as baby steps. If somebody's online, we just start out with simpler programming. And again, there's videos attached to every exercise, so you're never sitting there going, what the hell? And then when people come to, say, for example, classes or with a trainer, we show you how to do things. If there's something wrong, we'll fix it. Yeah. Because really, in reality, most of those things are simple fixes. They're not that hard. People often overthink what fitness actually looks like. I say this one all the time, like, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. It's not rocket science. If I could figure it out, anybody can figure it out. It's just, you know what I mean? If I came and tried to do your job, it would seem overwhelming at first until I did it for a while. It's the same thing with fitness.
I have a few clients I could let you take over.
I'll be happy to. No. I'll mess it all up, but I'll be happy to.
So then types of exercise I noted down as well. We briefly touched on that. We mentioned cardio and we mentioned weights.
Yes.
Specifically, what types of exercise would you recommend if for a very basic, let's say the weight routine, if realtors were to do it just the 3 times per week, what would be a really good routine, just a very basic routine for them to start off with?
Simple would be you'd want to do, say, 6 to 8 sets of anywhere between 10 and 12, 20 and 15 reps on all the major muscle groups you have. So chest, back, quads, which is your thigh, hamstring, and glutes, which is your butt and the back of your leg. And then for the smaller muscles like triceps, shoulders, calves, maybe 4 sets of somewhere between, again, 10 to 12, 15 reps.
Okay, and you could split that up over the 3 days, or would you kind of try to do everything?
There's a couple of ways to look at it. I mean, you could do, I tend to train people in the way that I think works best. There's a lot of good science out there that says, as long as you get the sets in and you get the volume in that you're looking for, that's fine. And it doesn't really matter how you do it. You could do 3 sets one day, 3 sets on Wednesday, and 3 sets on Friday. You've got the same amount of volume if you did it on one day.
Right.
I tend to prescribe a little bit more. Most clients that come to me want to lose weight and they want to look better and feel better. I tend to train them more like I would train a bodybuilder or a bikini model because those people have the most muscle and are the leanest. So I tend to train them in that direction. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do like push-pull days, where you're doing one day is all pushing exercises and the other day is all pulling exercises. There's lots of those out there. There's many different ways to skin a cat. Okay. As long as you're doing it, that's the important part.
So I think that's covered all of the important stuff for today. Devin, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. And if folk are looking to get hold of you at 360 Fit, where can they find you, and what would be the best number to reach you on? Actually, probably the easiest is just to look up my Instagram. It's at 360 Fit Gym. Right. Or my Facebook is just Devin Sherrington. There's Devin Sherrington. There's not a lot of Sherringtons around. It's just my family. It's me and my kids. So you really can't get away with anything. It's hard to hide from me. Devin, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate you. Okay. Thank you.